Hi everybody, and welcome to our 2022 BHL Annual Meeting. This will be our first hybrid meeting after 2 years of virtual meetings, so I'm really looking forward to seeing all of those of you who will make it to Scotland, and then also having conversations with you both in person and follow-ups as we meet online for the other portions of the meeting. So again, welcome to the meeting, and I'm looking forward to turning it over to myself for the next part of this meeting, and have a good 2022 annual meeting. Hello, and welcome to the 2022 BHL Annual Meeting. I'm Martin Kalfatovic, the BHL Program Director. I'm going to be giving you our annual report from the Program Director's Chair. When a species has once disappeared from the face of the earth, we have reason to believe that the same identical form never reappears. Earlier this year, I did a blog post on the 15th anniversary of the launch of biodiversitylibrary.org. As you can see, the early days were much different from our current site, and I think it's very unlikely that this screen and this website will reappear in the BHL history. But through those 15 plus years of BHL, one thing has remained consistent. It's that we adhere to our vision of inspiring discovery through free access to biodiversity knowledge, and our mission remains strong and clear to provide and improve research methodology by collaboratively making biodiversity literature openly available to the world as part of a global biodiversity community. I'm going to start my report with a little bit about the governance and secretariat activities over the past, actually almost year and a half, because we are having our meetings a little late this year. And I'd like to start off by thanking the executive committee that we had previously with our chair, Connie Rinaldo, vice chair, Jane Smith, and secretary, David Iggulden. After the annual meeting last year, this executive committee there was an election, and we replaced them with our new executive committee, with Connie, David taking the place of vice chair, and Kelly Try from the University of Illinois becoming our new secretary. I want to especially thank both the past and current members of the executive committee for the support, guidance, and other just general goodwill that they have provided for both myself, the secretariat, and all of our BHL partners. Just a quick review, I want to just sort of go over some of the things that we did. We only had one member vote during this past period of time. That was to approve the due spending plan, and that again was a unanimous vote with some non-voting participants. But the executive committee also did make a number of executive decisions over the course of the year. You can see them outlined here. A lot of these were around the dues structure that we revised for the next 3 years. Some sponsorship activities, which you can see here at the Internet Archive Public Domain Day, as well as some other things around the Marine Bioinvasions Conference, etc. The Secretariat has also seen some changes since our last annual meeting. Here is our 2020 Secretariat with Colleen as Program Manager, Bianca as Collection Manager, and Grace Costantino as our Outreach and Communications Manager. As you all know, Grace left earlier in this year, and the newly constituted Secretariat is comprised of myself, Colleen, Bianca, and our newest addition, JJ Dearborn, who we'll come back in to see more of later. Also, again, BHL would not really exist without the key advising and work of our technical advisory group, Alyssa Herman, Nicole Carney, Susan Lynch, joined by Mike Lichtenberg and Joel Richard as our developer and BHL technical coordinator. And now recently, which you'll hear more about from JJ, she's taken on more of a role as a project manager for the technical advisory team, and we'll be hearing more from her about her activities in that regard later. Myself, I've been involved in a number of different meetings and presentations over the course of the last year plus in terms of promoting BHL and making sure that BHL is involved in a number of activities. I've been heavily involved with GBIF, both the North American Nodes meeting. I was also elected as the second chair of the GBIF Budget Committee. I participated in the GBIF 28 meeting. Tadwig, both Connie and I were involved in the Bicycle Hackathon, which is a DISCO initiative. IDIG Bio Catalog of Life, the Council of Botanical and Horticulture Libraries. I remain a member of the Plant Humanities Advisory Committee, which is a JSTOR, Mellon, Dumbarton Oaks Council, and then also the Global Consortium for Digital Specimen DOIs, which is yet another DISCO project. I did a few presentations this year, including both an overview of BHL for CBHL, a citizen science program for the WeDig Bio group, and just recently, JJ and I did a program for the Internet Archive's Libraries as Laboratory series analyzing biodiversity literature at scale. You'll hear much more from Colleen about our BHL financial updates, including details of our status. But what I really want to point out is that BHL finances have continued to weather well during the COVID-19 crisis. That's both through a combination of continued robust support for BHL from our partners, as well as lowering expenses in many of our categories. In terms of a dues update, all members have paid their dues for 2022. 18 affiliates have paid. One affiliate, we're having challenges with the transfer with the different financial systems, and 2 affiliates have not yet responded to the call, so we are trying to get in touch with them. Donations were also strong this year. As you may recall, last year we had a very good year with that large $50,000 gift from an anonymous donor in Germany. But even if we take that number out, we're pretty much very close to on track to being on par with the previous year's donations. Again, here's a chart that shows our donations by country and by US state. And just as a reminder, that 20,000 US dollars represents about 2 full members or 20 affiliates. So those pretty much unsolicited donations for BHL from our global user community, that is just really finds BHL useful is a key component of our planning. Again, our consortium remains strong. We continue to have our 22 affiliates and 19 members throughout the course of this year. So I'm very pleased that, again, all of our partners have seen the value of BHL and remaining as partners. And again, you're all familiar with these slides, which show our members and our affiliates. And again, there has been no change of that since our last meeting. The content of BHL has been a challenge in terms of increasing that during these past 2 years of COVID. We did go over the 60 million page mark earlier this year. Congratulations to the National Agriculture Library, which has been one of our key partners that's been continuing to digitize material during the pandemic. And again, our sort of chart showing the increase of content in BHL is a little bit slow this year. So as you can see, we had significantly fewer items digitized from this year to last year. And our page growth has also been significantly cut because of the decrease in digitization by our various partners. In terms of our users, again, users of BHL and use remains strong since over the course of the pandemic. Just as a quick note, as you can see, our usage of BHL is down from 2020, where we saw a significant increase due to the pandemic. But again, if we do a straight line average, of course, across the last 3 years, you can see we still are on an upward trend. I think this is due to the fact that there were many partners and institutions that did begin to return to the workplace over the course of 2021, 22. So again, we've seen people not having quite as much reliance on BHL online as they did during the worst parts of the pandemic. Users by country is again trending similar to how it has in the past. The US remains the single largest user. India remains a strong second place user over the course of time. And you can see the rest of the users in the top 10. Again, I think this just reinforces the fact that many of those in the global south are key users of BHL, and how do we continue to provide that resources to them is important. And again, this might be an area where we do further exploration in terms of getting additional content that will be of use to the people in those areas. A quick note on users by city. I found this particular data point quite interesting because the number 5 city usage of BHL this past year was Ashburn, Virginia. Ashburn, Virginia is located in the suburban Washington area, and I consider the fact that this number is so high is that so many of the Washington biodiversity researchers, particularly the Smithsonian, were working from home. So their Smithsonian, their IP addresses were not being tracked to Washington, D.C., which usually is in the top 5, but were probably to this suburban Washington area. Our top referrers, again, are led by Wikipedia. This is a combined Wikipedia number, so I'm quite intrigued that again, Wikipedia stays strong, and we'll hear more from JJ about how we can interact more closely with Wikipedia, Wikimedia, and the wiki environment to again increase that use. Marine species remain strong, but we also saw an increase from a number of the more social media platforms, which I need to sort of dig into a little deeper, but Pinterest, Facebook, YouTube were all much higher up than some of the traditional biodiversity sources, such as Tropicos or Index, Fungorum, iNaturalist. So I do need to look into that a little bit more to see why last year saw an increase from those referrers. I'll also note that BHL continues to see the growth of access from mobile, either tablets or phones in 2021. This represented almost 31% of the user traffic. I don't, however, have any statistics on the use of mobile devices by cats of BHL. So that, again, is another area for investigation in the coming year. I myself am also a user of BHL, and again, this past year, like the previous year, I've been a very active participant in iNaturalist and trying to connect my observations of the natural world with the works that are in BHL. This past year, I had a number of interesting citations that are observations that I then reviewed within the BHL context. This is one on the marbled orb weaver spider that was very interesting to research on BHL. And then again, there was also an interesting look back at the cabbage white butterfly and how it was documented in BHL, as well as what I saw in my backyard. However, as Lydia Ponce de la Vega has noted, the BHL content is not always necessarily safe for all users. So one of the things that is what I think one of our great achievements over the past year is the work that was done by many of our BHL staff members, including led by Bianca Crowley, to actually work with the content of BHL to see how we can actually address some of those challenging issues within the BHL content. This has led to the creation of the BHL Acknowledgement of Harmful Content, which is now across our BHL website. And again, this will provide guidance to users and some further understanding or context to that 500 years of natural history and taxonomic literature that we present. global partnerships remain strong, from all of the different biodiversity acronyms, from Biodiversity Literature Repository, CTAF, TADWIG, to, again, some of those large national and continental aggregators of library data, DPLA, and Europeana. I'm also excited to announce further that, again, our involvement with the wiki community is increasing. And again, you'll hear more from that with BHL from JJ later in her presentation. But again, the combination of BHL and the wiki world will be a very important thing going forward. As I've been thinking about BHL, I was looking back at some of my past presentations, and I was thinking how in 2010, one of the things we always used to highlight was how BHL was really a combination of technology, library, and science. But now as we look forward, I'm thinking that we need to refactor those three components as science served by data, technology serving the biodiversity community, and libraries serving the biodiversity community. And in that regard, these key partnerships that we've been focusing on and will highlight in the coming months is, again, our relationship with the Biodiversity Literature Repository, led by Donat Augusti at Platzi, and all of our important colleagues at the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. And again, this is a very key time for us, both as citizens of the world, as well as our co-planetary organisms. The recent intergovernmental report on climate change was a bracing report that, again, I encourage everyone to look at, and look at it with a little bit of an eye towards hope. Again, it's important that we look at this carefully and that we see how both we as individuals, as institutions, and as BHL can help alleviate the coming climate change problems through our work. I'd also like to note this quote from Charles Darwin, which closes The Origin of Species, resonates with me regularly. There's a grandeur in this view of life with its several powers, having been originally breathed into a few forms or into one, and that whilst this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms, most beautiful and most wonderful, have been and are being evolved. BHL continues to evolve, and that's what makes us an important part of the biodiversity community. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone again next year at our BHL annual meeting, which will be at the Natural History Museum in Paris, dates to be determined. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to talking with you either virtually or in person over the course of the next few days, and thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. As you can see, BHL had yet another very good year, even with all the challenges that we faced during this global pandemic. I'm really looking forward to the rest of 2022 and as we move on into 2023. So again, thanks for your attention and looking forward to further conversations for the rest of this meeting.